Revolutionary greetings to the people of Zimbabwe, comradely salutations to all the viewers of #Shaping Politics. Welcome to yet another episode where I'll be dissecting the politics of the country, the economics of Zimbabwe and beyond. But in today's show, I'm going to primarily focus on the expressions by Professor Mthuli Ncube as quoted in the Herald of 22 August 2020, wherein he argued that Zimbabwe has made, in quotes, significant progress in political, economic and social reforms. It is astonishing, it is shocking, it is rather disturbing that considering the socio-economic challenges that this country is grappling with, considering that in Zimbabwe we still have queues for fuel, we still have cash shortages, considering that in this economy, there's no aggregate demand. Very little money is circulating in the economy, considering that there's no clear sign of improving the productive sectors of the economy in manufacturing or developing factories to create productive employment for the people of Zimbabwe. And despite the ever-deepening political crisis in this country, where there is no national unity, where there is deep polarization in the abuse of human rights, Professor Mthuli Ncube had to lie to the nation and say that Zimbabwe has made progress. I do not know which progress the finance minister is talking about. So this is the area that I'm going to focus on in this particular episode. So firstly, when Professor Mthuli Ncube became the Minister of Finance and Economic Development in the year 2018 after the general election, Professor Ncube came up with a document called the Transitional Stabilization Program, or the TSP, which is a macroeconomic blueprint to guide Zimbabwe's macroeconomic policies from October 5, 2018 to October 5, 2020. And in that particular document, the Minister of Finance and Economic Development made projections to the effect that this economy will grow by 7.1% each and every year. He also alluded to the fact that the government will create 2.2 million jobs. He also alluded to the fact that command agriculture will be replaced by a private sector model of agriculture or of commercial farming in this country. Also alluded to the fact that they will compensate former commercial white farmers, an area that we dealt with in the last episode. But I want to touch primarily on Professor Ncube's views that this economy will grow by 7.1% each and every year. We are all aware that in 2018 itself, the economy did not grow by 7.1%. Actually, the economy grew in reverse, and statistics from the World Bank, statistics from the international financial institutions like the IMF, and also official statistics from the Ministry of Finance itself through the 2019 national budget indicate that in 2018, Zimbabwe's economy shrank by minus 3.2%, a trend that was further witnessed in the year 2019, and a trend that we have also witnessed from the mid-term budget review that Professor Ncube himself presented at the end of June this very same year. So it is worrisome that Professor Ncube, a whole professor of financial mathematics, a whole professor of economics, can sit and be quoted in the media and misinform the nation and deliberately edit the truth and argue that Zimbabwe has made economic progress. It is actually shocking. Let us actually look at the human development indicators in this country. Let us look at the healthcare sector, for example. The healthcare sector is in a dire state as we speak. Doctors are on a strike, and the strike started actually in the year 2018, and most nurses and medical professionals were fired from work. This crisis has not been solved. Let's look at the productive parts of the economy, or the productive aspects of the economy. It is argued by Zimstats itself that 90% of Zimbabweans are living far below the poverty data line. So from October 2018, when poverty levels were at 70%, to June 2020, when poverty levels rose from 70% in 2018 to now over 90% in 2020. I do not know where Professor Mthuli Ncube gets the idea that we are making economic progress. Pursuant also to the coronavirus pandemic, we are all aware that the Zimbabwean economy, is also further plunged into a deep crisis. Number one, the currency is very volatile. Number two, there is no industrial utilization or capacity utilization in this economy. The $18 billion economic stimulus package announced by the government late this year has not yet been realized in terms of revitalizing key aspects of the economy like the agricultural sector, key aspects of the economy like the mining sector, key aspects of the economy like the manufacturing sector. The value chain in the manufacturing sector is absent because Zimbabwe is not producing at the farms. Remember that prior to the fast-track land reform program of 2000, there was interlinkages between the agricultural sector and the manufacturing sector. The national foods, the canes of this world, were linked to the commercial aspect of agriculture. But since 20 years, the fast track land reform program, there hasn't been any meaningful manufacturing, and the government statistics itself shows that from 2000 to 2020 we have witnessed a steady decline in manufacturing. But what is also important is the ideological premise upon which Professor Ncube bases his argument that Zimbabwe is making economic progress. It is the capitalist mode of production, it's the capitalist ideology that he subscribes to, that you only look at the quantitative aspects of economic growth, or you only look at the figures themselves, the statistics themselves, without analyzing the quality of that particular growth. So Professor Ncube can argue that the economy is growing statistically, but in terms of a person who is in Chireds, a person who is in Mbari, they will tell you that the Zimbabwean dollar continues to lose value. They will tell you that the 5 bond coins, the $2 bond notes are being disregarded or not accepted by retailers and traders in the informal economy and in some parts of the formal supermarkets or retail sectors. A normal Zimbabwean will tell you that they queue for fuel each and every day. So I do not know an economy that has made progress where the people must queue for fuel. I do not know an economy in this world where you say the economy has improved or there's been progress when there is no energy, there is no electricity in this country. Since the appointment of the new Minister of Energy, we've seen load shedding coming back. So how do you then say the economy is progressing when there is no energy, whereas energy drives industry? So that's where the disconnect is from Professor Mthuli Ncube's sentiments. And we are here, I am here personally as an intellectual to dismiss such claims by the minister and to challenge him to even come on the show and defend his assumptions and tell the people of Zimbabwe where he is getting those figures that the economy is improving. He would argue that there was a registered budget surplus in Zimbabwe from January 2020 to June 2020. But you can't celebrate a budget surplus before expenditure. This is basic economics. You can't say in your house you have registered a surplus when you earn $1,000 and before your wife or your husband spends the money to buy the basics of the house. This is what Professor Ncube basically did. He is celebrating a surplus before expenditure, before paying teachers, before paying doctors, before paying nurses. So in short, Professor Ncube is lying. There is no an economic or a budget surplus in this country, which means there is no economic progress. He also argues, he also dabbles into the politics, and he says there's been political progress in Zimbabwe on the premise that there's been the revocation or the repealing of the Public Code and Maintenance Public Code and Security Act. He argues that the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Act, AIPA, has been repealed. But those particular pieces of legislation, draconian pieces of legislation, have been replaced by more repressive pieces of legislation. Hence, the violations of people's rights to demonstrate, to assemble, is exhibited on July 31st, when the people of Zimbabwe were denied the opportunity to peacefully express themselves through invoking Section 58 and 59 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, which gives us the God-given right to demonstrate and petition. We know that POSA has been replaced by the MOPA Act. We know that AIPA has equally been replaced by a more repressive media law. So there is no political reform. Professor Ncube also makes a dubious claim. He argues that Zimbabwe has managed to align all laws or all existing statutes with the Constitution of Zimbabwe. This is a lie from the pits of hell. There has not been any significant progress in the alignment of all laws with the Constitution of this country. I would argue, for example, the Public Finance Management Act is not consistent with Section 298 of the Zimbabwean Constitution. But the Public Finance Management Act is yet to be aligned with the Constitution of this country. Why? Because the political elites who are governing this country are not interested in transparency, are not interested in accountability. So there has never been any alignment of laws with the new constitution. You look at laws like the Criminal Codification and Reform Act, a lot of activists, a lot of opposition political party members are being harassed and arrested because of such nuisance laws that are reminiscent of the colonial period that we were under Ian Douglas Smith. So the professor must be sincere. If we are going to solve the socio-economic and political crises, I now come to the solution as I conclude this show. What are the solutions? Because some will argue and say, I'm just expressing the negatives. Why can't you give solutions? These are the solutions. There can never be solutions to our country without truth-telling. There can never be solutions to the challenges we face as a people without accepting that the July 31 presidential election is a contested electoral outcome. We need to iron out the legitimacy question that surrounds the occupants of number one, Chancellor Avenue. Number two, we also need a genuine process of national dialogue. But national dialogue is a process of national peace and reconciliation through truth-telling. So you can't then dismiss, a whole government cannot then dismiss the Catholic bishops who issued a pastoral letter arguing that there is a crisis in this country. The ANC has said there's a crisis in this country. Minister Nalendi Pandor of South Africa has said there's a crisis in Zimbabwe. The MDC has said there's a crisis in Zimbabwe. Citizens, through their lived experiences, are always saying there's a crisis in Zimbabwe. It is only the government which is oblivious to the fact that the Zimbabwe is in a crisis. So we need to acknowledge that we're in a crisis. Sit down as a people and disregard totally this neoliberal approach that this government has taken and re-socialize the means of production. Make sure that Zimbabwe is espoused in ZANU's founding manifesto, that Zimbabwe is supposed to be a socialist state, values that have been betrayed, values of Gutsa Ruzhinji, values of a shared national economy that is productive, where the state takes center stage in controlling the means of production through the workers. Aluta continue. Thank you so much for joining us on today's show. I welcome your comments, especially for those who disagree with the views expressed in this show. Thank you so much. Zimbabwean lives matter. Thank you. Aluta continue.